I am here since 12th September to today. I interacted with the policymakers at Kathmandu and visited Janakpuri Asman Nepal NGO project area. I also interacted with newly elected mayors, Palika mayors and ward members, young people, youth, and Asman Nepal field staff, community, parents. It was very energetic visit. And from India, I am coming from India, I saw the lot of similarities on education side. We can work together on this idea of elimination of child labor and all children in school, and the retention and quality education. I found one important thing I would like to mention here. There is a lot of demand for education from the poorest of the poor. This needs to be recognized by the policy makers, national government, state government and federal and local government. Normally people see it as poverty is the reason people are not interested on education, but it's not true. There is a urging demand for education from the Dalit communities, from the parents, from the communities. They want to be educated at whatever cost it is, but government has to recognize this. That is the one first important point I saw in the communities. Even though they are hungry, even though they are working hard, unorganized laborers, but their children need to be in schools, and the policies of the national government and the local governments, I saw it as working towards that direction, but it needs a lot of speedy policies and schools in place, access in place, and free education should be imparted to these communities. Actually, when we began our work, there was very less discussion on children. And there are a lot of NGOs working on other issues. So we thought to working with children will be sustain the entire process of dignity of life. So we began our work with bonded labor children. There the Dalit children were bonded. We started our work there. Then suddenly we found other children also not going to school. Majority of them were out of school when we began our work. Then we defined a unique definition saying that every child out of school is a child laborer. That is a radical definition we gave, and we went village to village, house to house. I saw same similarities in Nepal communities and Indian communities. We started in South India, in elsewhere Andhra Pradesh, now it is Telangana. But we worked with young people, youth. Youth were attracted to this program, and they they were convinced, saying that every child should be in school. That is the strength for us to work in these areas, and with the definition of every child out of school is a child laborer. I think, see, education is a public good, and all capitalist countries are owned by giving free education to their children through public education. That is the fact. But Indian context and Nepali context, we in our constitution, we have envisaged that every child needs a free and compulsory education. In the meantime, that means they need to invest. Governments need to invest in the government schools to cater education to all children, quality education. Normally, this is the argument where coming up because the governments are not seeing it as a priority and leaving to the private. Leaving to private is a very not a good sign because the differentiations in the society, the gaps in the society, the rich and poor in the society will widen through these multiple schools, multiple private schools. So the rich and poor should go to same school. A common school mechanism should be there, like in United States, like in Europe, there the neighborhood, all children, collector's son, administrative son, secretary's son, and his driver's son, they will go to, or their daughter, go to a same school. So what I am trying to say is governments to take that responsibility to have a social justice in the community. So social justice comes through only through equal education, equal opportunities. If we introduce private with a notion that equality and everything, the poorest of the poor will be excluded. Once we are already seeing this in our countries, in Nepal and India, the exclusion will be more and more, because poor not afford to private schools, and governments are not investing. Governments are not investing and leaving to these communities to private. That means whoever rich, whoever affordable, they go to private schools. So that is where it is very important in our context, in our societies. Already we are fragmented from caste wise, class wise. So schools only institutions which inclusive nature. So if every child goes to schools, if government invests in those schools in a high level, very high investments, we need 6% GDP from the governments and 20% national budgets. I saw that Nepal has 11% budgets spending. We need more and more budgets. I also see that in both the countries' context, families are spending, even though they are sending their children to government schools, the out-of-pocket expenses on children are very high. The poorest of the poor. Yesterday I met in Ward 2 of Ganesh Man Charnath. That Palika, I met women, and they are working hard as a laborers, and they are sending their children to school. Even they are sending their children to community school, but they are spending a lot of money on their on children, on education, notebooks, some transport, lot of things they are spending. So I think somewhere governments should be a free education. Private player, definitely they have a role. Maybe they can train teachers, they can build buildings, government buildings, they can pitch in. And education should not be seen as a profit. It is in our constitution, Indian constitution also. I think here also, education can't be a profit making. So that is whole thing. If you are not profit making, you invest in the government, invite them. I am not saying private should not be there. Invite them, build government schools, train government teachers, give good uniforms, give breakfast to these children. Invest on them, and your investments will be very helpful for the long term. A generation children will be transformed into studentship. Actually, the very important point you raised, one is, see, the capacity to spend also very less in our system. If they have, I saw the budgets, 40%, 60% spending in the budgets. So one is to build the capacities of the local governments to spend the money which they have allocated. Two, the money, they have to increase the money by cess or private sector or whatever, that should come to the government, and government should increase in their budgets. Definitely the elite need to be having consensus on this issue. Elite of the society should have consensus to educate the poor children. Then they will pay taxes, they will pay more revenues to the schools, to the government on education. So more than that, governments should have priority on education, anything other. Because a child in a Dalit community should not be working, should be going to school. That message should be given very clearly. Then once that intent is clear, then they have to search for money. Definitely schools need to be, school teachers, a lot of teachers requires in Nepal. I saw, even India also, quality teachers, recruitment, and local level building their capacity to recruit monitoring their school teachers. So nearly in one school I saw 50% of the teachers are only government teachers and 50% are not government teachers. They are all temporary. Imagine what you expect from these teachers who are not as working conditions, and their social security is very weak. So hence what I am trying to say is, quality teacher, recruit quality teachers is one mantra, and invest on schools. Investment on education is not expenditure. That is one important thing. It's not expenditure, you are investing in the future. Generally governments and elite thinks this is an expenditure. It's not expenditure, it's an investment. I like the media here, and on education you have a separate wing and you are working hard. Actually I am taking back that new innovation, Nepal innovation on media. That is one. Second thing is, children are missing out from schools. Track every child as a national level, as a Palika level, as ward level. Tracking every child is required because some children are missing out from schools. Yesterday we saw a presentation, 20% of the children are only in 11th and 12th. 80% are missing. So first of all, you recognize these children. All children out of school or in child laborers, wage or non-wage work, and bring them to schools is one important. Second thing is investment to the Palikas. Now you have a local government, decentralized. That's a very good thing I feel. To decentralize model is good, but it's not enough that not sending money, and it's not enough that capacitating those they need experts. One Palika chairman asked me, can we have an expert to help us? So that's where national government should think, put experts at the Palika level, education experts, planning experts, managing experts, maybe not full time, but they need planning process. Finally, money. They have to invest money without any, that is non-negotiable. Investing money is non-negotiable. It's not that, it's not a bargaining thing. You are investing in a child means it's not a bargaining thing. Then we will have happy Nepal, wealthy Nepal.